Okay, so here we are on the back, and these problems are going to be almost exactly the same. We'll just see that x is now going to be in our denominator instead of our numerator. So we still set this up starting by looking at our angle and labeling our sides. So I have the hypotenuse, the adjacent, and the opposite. Now, there's nothing over here for O, so I'm going to use the cosine, adjacent and hypotenuse. And we set it up the exact same way as we did on the front. So cosine of our angle equals A over H. So now I can see x is in the denominator instead of the numerator. Now unfortunately we can't solve it the same way. So it's going to be one extra step to solve. So on the front we multiplied by whatever was in the denominator. And that's still true. We're going to do that same step. So I'm going to multiply both sides by x. So you're always multiplying by whatever's in the denominator to cancel it. So now I have x times the cosine of 42 equals 17. Now I need to get x by itself, and these two things are being multiplied. So I'm just going to divide both sides by the cosine of 42. So that whole thing goes away, and now I'm left with 17 divided by the cosine of 42. And now this is what I'm going to plug into my calculator. 17 divided by the cosine of 42 gives me 22.9. So if x is in the denominator, you're still going to multiply both sides by that denominator to get rid of it, but then you just have one extra step of dividing. So the next problem, still the same process. Start with the angle, label your sides. So hypotenuse, opposite, adjacent. Now figure out which trig function you need. And so I don't have the hypotenuse, so opposite and adjacent is tangent. So I have the tangent of 67 equals 94 over x. Now again, always multiply by the denominator to get rid of it. So x times the tangent of 67 equals 94. Then we're going to divide both sides by the tangent of 67. So I'm going to plug 94 divided by the tangent of 67 into my calculator. And that's going to give me 39.9. And don't forget units. We are finding a side length of a triangle, so you still need the units there. Okay. I know it seems like I'm repeating myself because all these problems are done pretty much the same way. So again, start with your angle, label your sides. So hypotenuse, adjacent, opposite. Figure out which trig function you need. So I don't have A, so O and H is sine. So sine of 29 is 8.4 over x. Again, multiply by x on both sides because I want to get rid of that denominator. And then I'm going to divide both sides by the sine of 29. So I'm going to have 8.4 divided by the sine of 29. When I plug that into the calculator, we get 17.3. And don't forget units. Okay, and notice that all my side lengths were rounding to one decimal place. That's the way it will be for all of these. And then our last one on the back is just like our last one on the front, where you have two angles. And you can choose whichever angle you want. And again, I'll show you how to set it up for both, but you're going to get the same answer no matter what angle you choose. So if I choose 70, opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse, I don't have the adjacent, so I'm going to use the sine with opposite and hypotenuse. So sine of 70 equals 112 over x. Multiply by that denominator. get rid of it. And then we'll divide both sides by the sine of 70. So that x, when you plug that into your calculator, you're going to get 119.2. And there's no units on this one, so we can just leave it like that. Now again, I use that 70 degrees. If you use the 20 degrees, this side is still the hypotenuse, but then the opposite and adjacent switch. So this time I'm going to use cosine. So cosine of 20 would equal 112 over x. And when you solve, you would end up plugging in 112 divided by the cosine of 20. But you still get the 119.2. So you can choose whichever angle you want if you're given two angles. So just pick one and then you would use the trig function from there. Okay? So just remember, whenever you set this up, and x is wherever x is, even if it's in the numerator or denominator, you always multiply by the denominator first. That's always your first step. Whether it's a number or whether it's x, you're always going to multiply by that denominator to get rid of it.